Hey, hi Ayush, hi Darren.
Yeah. Hi, everyone.
We'll wait for some more time for more people to join in, and then we'll start. I think Darren, you're joining again, right? You joined earlier calls.
Yes, yeah, I missed the last one, but I got the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so glad you've continued with these series. Interesting to see how things develop for you all.
Mhm. Good to have you again. How is your setup with SigNoz going on right now?
Yeah, I think more like steep learning curves for some of this stuff. So more on the OpenTelemetry side.
Mhm.
So we're trying to productionize a Magento application for profiling. I mentioned last time in China, which is why we're having fun with this stuff. So it's learning curves. Like, for example, they didn't want to use gRPC because they want to compile the module and it takes about 2.5 hours for their build. So we're using protobuf and HTTP endpoints, which was great until we started performance testing. And then suddenly the realization that the PHP Google protobuf library is about as performant as a kind of a chocolate teapot. Kind of switching some of those cool components out for the proper C kind of level drivers. It's gone from 100% CPU back down to about 10. So we're now at the stage of kind of adding more and more telemetry and traces, at the stage of starting to play with tail-based sampling. So we've now got Magento wired up, we've got proper name traces and spans, HTTP requests, log forwarding. We're just adding, well, MySQL's done. We're just adding Redis, Elasticache, and that type of stuff. And then looking at the various receivers. So I think I was talking to Srikanth some time ago about AWS Firehose and how they send summary metrics in, etc. So just the age of AI. So with the help of Claude, I ended up writing a metric processor that is converting all of the summary metrics into gauges so we can visualize them properly in SigNoz as well. So all of that stuff is coming on nicely. Starting to explore OpAmp, and very curious where you're going with that stuff. So for my Firehose collectors, etc., I'm not using kind of your stuff. I didn't want it to start trying to add log pipelines to my config on the fly. So yeah, it's going well. It's baptism of fire. Scale is going to be fun. There will be some questions later on the ClickHouse side of things and kind of how best to organize failover and kind of fault tolerance for the query service. That's the main questions I've got around today. But I'm sure we'll come on to them later. But yeah, it's fun, isn't it?
Got it. So I think you're using SigNoz at its full power, right?
Yes. Yeah. Trying to cover everything. So yeah.
Great.
Good.
I think we don't have a lot of people joining in today. So I'll try to just change up the format for now. So Ayush, Darren, So I'm Chitransh. I'm part of the SigNoz team. We have Vishal and Shrikant from the engineering team at SigNoz. So I think we can wrap up this call a bit early. So if you guys have any kind of question for us, I think like Darren, you have already mentioned that you're using SigNoz, right?
Yep.
Ayush, like, have you been using SigNoz for a while, or is it like your first time trying out SigNoz and you just like, can you tell us a bit more about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So we have been using SigNoz for the last 5 to 6 months now, and currently only for metrics and logs, and we plan to move on to tracing and instrumentation as well. Uh, and yeah, it has been like a great tool, obviously, for us. So we were on a Prometheus Grafana ELK stack, and as it sounds like it is a very heavy stack to maintain 5 different tools and have a separate database for each of them and separate UI for managing metrics and logs. So yeah, just uh, I think the USP for us was just bringing everything under one dashboard. I think that was uh, really a game changer for us. And yeah, we were in evaluation mode for the first month, and now we have it on production. And yeah, it has helped us like triage and save many of the issues beforehand. And yeah, I was not expecting to have have a query like ask you guys a query about SigNoz this soon in the call, so I'll have to gather my thoughts and I'll get back to you on my questions regarding SigNoz.
Yeah, I mean, you can always reach out to us on our Slack community, right, to answer questions there itself. Um, so hi Christo. Uh, uh, so we have this open call right now, Christo. If you have anything that you want to ask us, so we have a team here on the call. Okay, I think he dropped off. Cool. Guys, if you have any questions for us, anything that you feel can be improved, any way we can help you out with anything, like this is an open floor. If you have any suggestions for us, any feedback that you want to give, or any help that we can do, just let us know right away.
I actually have it written. Just give me a minute.
Mhm. Darren, one question to you. Uh, is there any particular thing that you feel could be improved on the product or the implementation side for SigNoz?
I think in terms of from the core offering, it's quite robust. I think a few people have put in the support things. Things like a metrics viewer would be super helpful to save us trying to add things to dashboards and work out whether the metrics worked or not. So that type of stuff I think is a no-brainer. In terms of, I guess, some of the other bits and pieces, kind of having things like Usage Explorer is really useful, but obviously only supports traces at the moment. So being able to visualize the stats that we've stored, again, helps with some of those, I guess, retention questions, etc. So yeah, a few bits and pieces like that. I love the start of the service maps and kind of that type of stuff is all starting to kick off, which is quite nice.
Mm-hmm.
I think in terms of, I guess, how do you kind of expand with different types of data sets in future is going to be an interesting one. So I noticed when I upgraded to 0.53, message queues just appeared as a beta. Yeah. But I guess lots of different companies have tackled this slightly differently. So if you take the new Relic approach as an example, they do, I guess, entity synthesis on the pipeline to give you that ability then to say, well, this is a queue, this is an app, this is a X, Y, and Z. Because if you ended up with something similar kind of on that pipeline, you can just continue to add features and basic dashboards and stuff. almost infinitum. So it's going to be interesting. I think as you start adding more and more integrations, the best way for you guys to kind of allow that continual expansion. I think just before the call you dropped 0.54, so stuff like alert history and things like that. So after this call, I'm going to be sneaking my upgrade in. So I want to keep on kind of top of some of this stuff as well. The only other thing I'll say is, I guess, as a user of the open source version, it's how much you're going to kind of try and divulge code bases. Is enterprise going to end up with a lot more features in, and open source will hide behind, or is your enterprise offering more around the managed service and capability and consultancy, etc.? Because the more you put in enterprise, the fewer kind of, there's going to be a tipping point there. Some customers will pay for it. Some customers will pay for it just because they want the features and they don't want the support. Yeah. So I think my personal view is just think long and hard when you're doing that bit. Because I think it's an awesome product. And yeah, it's growing at speed, but you don't want to turn too many people off, because as an example, Trace Viewer, I'm already finding problems on the free one because I have too many spans. So whereas on the enterprise one, it's like, hey, we're visualizing them better, smiley face, right? Go pay you $2,500. I wouldn't pay it just for that. So I'm now having to go down the route of trying to summarize the spans and kind of drop some so we can visualize them properly. Yeah, so a whole bunch to unpack there. I know, apologies, but
no, that's fine. I think it's a really
one quick thing that I wanted to clarify here is that it was the website that said that that feature is part of the E, and that being the part of the not being able to use was incorrect one. We had, like, it's there's some clarification. SigNoz as a business also, it's the road, like there is no, like, we also, like, SigNoz as a business also needs to make money. So what we put into, like, what goes in E, what does not go in E, it's still kind of we're learning, we're figuring it out. Like, we had some things that were E, and then some limitation, then we removed them. We kind of understand that, okay, we hear from users that, okay, this is something that's required. So it's a very fine line that we need to be able to be that the people get value, but again we also have to sustain that. So it's that line that we are trying to like balance. But what goes into, like, it's not entirely kind of said that, okay, we will kind of like, keep the basic features out of that the people can use, like the regular open source people can use, even in the enterprise, what they get to see. So it's I would say, it's evolving. Even we are not sure what even we are not, it's not like we are like rigid in terms of, okay, so this is going to be this. So we are trying to, it's evolving, and we are also trying to learn, like, how do we position ourselves that the people, like the open source users, get value, but also we as a business, make some money out of it, and then sustain the business.
Dan.
I was going to say, no, I completely agree. And your transparency on that is appreciative. In terms of the visualize large traces, so just at the moment, so for SigNoz Cloud Normal Teams Edition, it shows it's included. Whereas for the hosted on infrastructure, it's only showing in the enterprise version. So again, I don't know whether that's a documentation miss or.
Yes, it was a documentation miss.
Okay, cool. Okay.
Yeah. So our objective with the open source version is that we want all the teams to adopt SigNoz. But then there are some specific features which are generally required by enterprise companies or the large, especially the large companies.
Yeah, SAML and
which
RBAC and all that stuff makes sense to be an enterprise, right? Yeah, completely agree. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So similar to those features we want to keep in the enterprise version, but uh, like we are evolving with the things like initially in the open source version we had some restrictions on the number of dashboards you could create or something like that. But we quickly figured out, okay, these kind of restrictions are not very helpful for the user. So right now in the current open source version, we don't have any restrictions, and we want to like it's more easy to get started as well. And similarly, like we have if any new feature which we release on the cloud or enterprise on the cloud, we want to make sure that it's also available in the open source version, unless it's a feature which is very enterprisey or
Yep.
required by large teams. But for the smaller teams or is like someone who is using SigNoz just to monitor their like in home labs or something,
Yep.
for those users we don't want to charge them, or like we know we don't want to earn from them. It's just like community, we want to give back to the community
Yep.
as well. So
No, awesome.
that's the objective. But yeah, we do keep experimenting, like we are learning from what features, let's say if a feature is logged in for the enterprise version, and then we get a feedback from community that this feature is required by even non-enterprise user or like smaller companies or the teams as well. Then we discuss and like try to make it available in the next open source version as well.
Yep. Okay. Awesome.
Cool. And Darren, about the other features that you have mentioned, some of them are live. So we have a launch week next week. I think you would want to watch it.
Okay.
We
Cool.
have some really cool features coming in,
Okay.
which have been live. So we'll probably be demoing those features as well. So do check out the launch week that's happening
Yep.
next week.
Yep. No, I definitely will do.
Great. Ayush, do you have any question for us?
Yeah, so yeah, I was pretty much here to listen, but if we are up to it, so yeah, I just have a few feature requests that maybe that are already raised, and we don't want to discuss the specifics. But I think the performance of the like the whole backend and the transmission of logs and metrics, that has been absolutely robust for us. But I think we already mentioned it earlier in the call that I think the front end and like some of the limitations in the alerts configuration and dashboard, I think that has been something that like we have been blocked on sometimes. So yeah, so like, do you guys have plans to maybe prioritize the front end part of the product more, or, like in the coming time, like as the back end kind of saturates, or you know, you guys basically run out of things to add it to?
Uh, I think we already are working on the front end part. So we have a dedicated front end team, and we have added new team members to the team as well. But is there anything specific that you have faced an issue with, like any particular thing that you feel is missing out in the front end?
Uh, so for example, just on the top of my head, so if, when you want to configure an alert, uh, you there's an option whether you want to check in the last X minutes. So there's a drop down. So I think there is like a list of options like 1 minute, 5 minutes, 15 minutes, and 60 minutes, so on. So for example, we would like it to be like a granular, of course, with a max limit. Uh, but I was wondering whether that was due to a known constraint or something, and like just one of the issues that I mentioned.
Yeah, it's nothing like it's not like a constraint or anything. We have started off with that, and the defaults are working fine. It hasn't come up that day. I need very custom. So it would be great if you can compile these things that you find like let's just say on the front end side, either buggy experiences or little bit of I need this customization or which is already a drop down. I need to have some custom number or anything. If you can compile these all of those, tiny, like they may not be big, they may be little small things that all make up the whole experience to be little less present. So if you
Yeah,
can compile them and post it, like create an issue, we would really appreciate that, because like without like it hasn't come up, and now you ask, kind of makes sense that it's just that we also had this in mind. Okay, so how granular it should be, what do we do about it? So the whatever has provided, it has been working well, so that's why we did not kind of modify it. But if you can list out all those things, and we will try to pick those, like we may not be able to pick everything up, but we will be able to pick
yeah, yeah.
in phases. Okay, so these are the things that we think are useful, and then find generally everybody, including whoever are using SigNoz, not just you, will find it useful. Then we will kind of triage them and address them in phases.
Yeah.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, here's just one feature request that I made. This is different. This is not related to front end, but I had it handy. So yeah, we can go
Yeah,
through
so
it
this
after the
is,
call.
not sure. Yeah, I should have. Yeah, Nitish mentioned me in there. I was supposed to. Yeah, it was on my backlog that to answer this, but yeah, let me go through it. Like if you do not get any response, that you tag on me there, maybe
Sure.
ping in the community channel. I may miss some notifications, but yeah, generally we try to answer as many questions, issues as possible.
Cool.
Yeah, that's completely fine. Yeah, and regarding front end issues, I'll compile all of them and maybe create a discussion here. And yeah, I saw the link uh, that was sent on the chat. So yeah, sure. Thanks.
Cool. So Ayush, if you like once you make the issue, if you don't get any response from our end, would be great if you can just tag us in the Slack community. You can tag me or Shrikant or Vishal, right? And we can have a look at it and try to respond to you as soon as we can.
Sure, will do. Absolutely.
Thank you. Hi Nimesh. We are just like we have an open floor here. If you have any question related to SigNoz, feel free to ask. If you have any feedback, any experience you would want to share, anything you want to discuss with the team,
Yeah.
feel free to ask.
No, absolutely. Yeah, no, thank you. Thanks for the open forum. Now, just to give it a quick intro how we're using SigNoz, or we're not using SigNoz yet. We've done a POC. So essentially, we've got an AWS infrastructure with EC2s and the typical EC2s, RDS, etc. The typical infrastructure setup, and we're looking at OpenTelemetry backends. So we're moving. We're going to move our observability into OpenTelemetry, and we're looking at different backends. So looked at Honeycomb as kind of the gold standard paid product. We're also looking at other products like SigNoz came to light. Another one called Highlight as well, and probably a few others. So we're essentially just trialing, installing it. We've installed the your SigNoz Docker Compose setup in our local test environment, and we're kind of experimenting with all the things. And essentially that's where we are right now. We're not we're still trying to instrument things with OpenTelemetry, putting OpenTelemetry collectors and gateways, so we can actually pipe metric data, traces, and all of that into the backends. But yeah, we kind of early stages on the OpenTelemetry implementation there.
Great. So I think you're very early in experimenting with SigNoz, I guess. So,
Yeah.
like, is there anything we can help you out with? Anything you need help with?
I mean, not right now. I mean, the POC that was done was essentially me asking one of my DevOps people to install it in our infrastructure and put some collectors to push data and just look at the dashboard and see how things work together. I think once we get more people from the team actually using it, and then we'll get more feedback and we'll get more people from my team to join these calls too.
Great. So, like, if you have any question while doing the POC, like, you can ping us in a Slack community. We are there to help you out. If you have any queries, you can tag us, right? And we'll try to help you out and set things up easily.
Certainly. Thank you.
Great. So I think we'll just wrap up the call now. Thank you so much for joining in. And we have a launch week happening next week. So do try to check that out. We'll be demoing some of the features that we have been working on. So that would be a good, like you'll get to know about new features that have been made live in SigNoz or are going to be live in SigNoz. So yeah, thank you so much for joining in, and hope to see you next month as well.
That sounds good. Just Shrikant, one very quick question, just for 2 seconds. So in terms of, I mentioned at the start, the query services, because we're having to put all of this stuff in Fargate with ECS, we can't use any of your Helm charts or any of that stuff, which makes trying to deconstruct what you've done and reconstruct it a bit more challenging. So with the query service at the moment, it's got state because it appears you're using the shared file system for things like your Prometheus YAMLs, and I think there's the local database there for kind of storing, I guess, users and dashboards and kind of that type of stuff. Is there any plans on making it more stateless and moving some of that data to this lovely database that you've got called ClickHouse? I guess it's the first half. And the second part is, if we're using a shared file system like EFS, is there any issue with just scaling it out as long as all of the containers have access to the same DB in essence? Because that's the one part of the platform that's a single point of failure at the moment.
So it's something on our minds that we like to make, like, to be able to introduce the additional mechanism where you don't have to rely on the SQLite DB that it creates, but rely on some other relational databases. Something that we have like kind of that's something we have seen people ask, and something on our minds that we want to solve it. But there is no immediate plan to make that happen. At least not in next couple of months or quarter. And to answer the second question, maybe if you could give more detail. Okay, so you were saying that the volume, like what are the storage attached, will remain same. Will, like, if you scale up the query service, as long as the storage remains same, will it going to create a problem?
Yes.
Will it be?
That's basically it. So if it's the same EFS file system, multiple containers now instead of one, is that going to be fine? Or am I asking for a recipe for disaster? Should I maintain one service? I presume you have more than one in production, right?
Yeah, okay, so I'm not fully 100% certain to give an answer right now, but
okay.
Theoretically it sounds good to me that it should not be, if the database exists already, it should not be creating it, and it should be using the same, and as long as you have the same file system, multiple containers, it should be working. But my knowledge of that, the AWS, the whatever you mentioned, the EFS file system is limited. But so I'm going to ask my team, and then get back to maybe ping us, post the same question in our community channel, and then I will bring a team into it.
Thank you very much.
Cool, great. So I think we'll wrap it up here. Cool. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much for joining in.
Brilliant. Cheers, everyone. Keep up the good work.
Thank you. See you in the next one.
Bye. Yeah, great work, guys. Goodbye.